What's up, everyone? This is the Dot Dattie Podcast, and today I'm with Shane Herrera from Scalp Micronation. What's up, Shane?
Hey, how's it going, Joey?
Where'd you grow up? You're out in, what is it, Vegas area, Orange County?
No, so I grew up in Southern California, primarily the Orange County area, South County specifically. So most of my life, I got to Orange County probably around age 16. Before that, lived in Georgia for a year. My dad's job moved us out there, and then prior to that, I lived in San Bernardino County in Southern California. So primarily, I've been in the Southern California area my whole life.
And then,
Yeah.
where's your shop located?
So my primary facility is located in Huntington Beach. We're the most busy. I also have another location. I do SMP in Las Vegas also. So I have two
That's
locations.
where I got confused.
Yeah.
So you do have two locations.
Yeah. So
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks, brother. It's cool. It's fun. Definitely different demographics as far as like how busy things can be. The Orange County, Los Angeles County area, there's a lot of people into SMP, man. In Vegas, not as much. Still an opportunity, but not as well known in Vegas as it is here in Southern California. So I've definitely noticed that for sure, but Vegas is cool, man. Vegas is cool. Some good people I've met out there, met some talented permanent makeup artists out there. And it's a cool vibe, man. So between here and there, I'm primarily most busiest in Huntington Beach. That's where I'm at.
And
yeah.
Because I'm from the East Coast, where is Huntington Beach? Is that below Los Angeles or above it? East?
It's southern. It's So you start heading south. You have Los Angeles County or like Hermosa beaches and stuff like that. You start heading south. That's when you hit Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, San Clemente. Keep going south. That's when you start hitting the San Diego beaches and stuff like that. And then keep going. You're in Mexico. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I assume you get a lot of Latino customers, right?
Yeah, I get a lot of Hispanics. I mean, it's really a melting pot of clientele.
Do you speak Spanish?
No, I don't. I don't speak Spanish. I'm third generation.
Okay.
So my grandparents were immigrants, and I have a mother that doesn't speak Spanish. So she kind of...
They didn't force it on you.
Yeah, she got a little jealous when my dad started speaking Spanish to us and stuff. And so, unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish, but, I have a little girl and she's about a year and a half and her mom speaks perfect Spanish. And so she's always talking to her in Spanish, and bilingual, man, it's definitely a benefit in this industry for sure. I know that for sure.
100%. Yes, I completely agree. And so that's good. So at least your daughter will learn Spanish. Now,
Yeah.
Are you married, or is that your baby mama? How's that work?
That's my baby's mama. You know what I mean? And we're gonna get married real soon here. We actually have we have a second child on the way.
Wow! Congrats.
So, thanks, brother. So it's gonna get pretty crazy. And I know that yourself. You just had your second child. Congratulations to you, brother. My heart goes out to you guys right now in this time. And
thank you.
Yeah, of course, bro. And it's just crazy being a father. You know what I mean? Like, being an SMP artist is one thing, man, but being a father, that's the best thing in the world. Being a parent,
I'm sure you would.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, exactly. So
now, how did you? So you go back and forth from Vegas to Huntington Beach. How far of a drive is that?
When I drive it, it's about a 3 hours and 45-minute drive. It's pretty easy nowadays, but the flight is about 45 minutes. The flight's about 45 minutes. So between driving and flying, sometimes I drive my family out with me. We haven't really put my daughter on the plane yet, so we're kind of waiting to do that. So, but that's coming real soon, because those 3-hour drives with a year and a half, baby can get a little stressful.
Oh yeah. Oh, it looks
Yeah.
to even taking your kid on the plane looks terrible. I mean, I see when last time I flew, I flew out to LA in September, and there's moms on the plane, and I'm like, and even if the kid is well behaved, you're still worried, right? You're still like, oh, is he gonna get up? Are they gonna run back? Are they gonna do something crazy?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to be courteous to the rest of the people, right? And you also just don't want your kid to freak out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel that one for sure, man. So, but has to be done. It has to be done. So we're gonna tote her on the plane real soon. She's wild too. She's crazy, man. She's crazy.
So
Which is a
you've
blessing.
been that's good. Now, so you've been doing scalp micropigmentation for 6 years, right?
Yeah, man. Around the same amount of time as yourself. You know,
And
so
what?
it's pretty cool.
When did you open the second location?
That was just this year. That was just this
Wow.
year. Yeah, it was just this year. The second location, I always wanted to expand my business, but the second location kind of just came abruptly because we had our child, and we're a little funny about daycare, putting our child in daycare. We're getting past that. But long story short, my girlfriend's family lives in Vegas, and I got like a stellar mother-in-law that's out of this world, and her help. That's why we moved to Vegas, was help with the baby. And so and then I was out there. I was like, I'm just gonna do SMP while I'm here, but I'm not giving up my location in Huntington Beach. So that's kind of how it came up. We ended up out there because we needed help with the baby, and
That makes sense.
yeah,
That was going to be my next question. Was going to be, I mean, are you paying like 4 different rents, right? You got the Huntington
yeah,
Beach, wherever you're living in Huntington Beach, and then you got your shop rent, and then do you have 2 more rents out in Vegas? Well, that's good. So I'm assuming you sleep at your in-laws when you go
yeah.
out.
No, so in Vegas, we live in Vegas, so we have our overhead from our living expenses in Vegas, and then when I visit Southern California, Huntington Beach, I stay with my parents, which is really cool. Get to hang out with them. But as far as like now in Vegas, I don't have that facility overhead just yet. I do have a location there. I rent from a facility out there, a permanent makeup facility called LV Inc. And there's some really
Shout out
talented
to LV Inc.
yeah, they're really talented permanent makeup artists in there. It's amazing what the brow artists and the lip blush artists are doing. Like SMP is great. It's beautiful. It's impressive. It's fun. But man, some of the stuff that those girls are doing in that facility, that's a lot of talent. And you can kind of see where our color theory comes from and stuff like that. You know, the permanent makeup industry and things. So yeah, it's a lot of fun over there. It's fun to meet other people in our industry and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's what I got going on out there. So and do some clients at that facility, and then but primarily I'm busy over here, really busy in Huntington Beach with between education and clients. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun.
Good for you. Good for
Thanks,
you.
brother.
I mean, do you go bi-weekly? Like, how often are you going back and forth to these different locations?
It depends. You know how it goes. Some depends where I'm busy. So like right now, I'm away from home. I'm in Huntington Beach. I'll be here for about 4 days. Do anywhere from 2 to 4 clients a day, bust everybody out, and then I won't be back for about 2 weeks. Probably about 7, no, about 8 days. 8 days I'll be gone, and then I'll come back and work on some more clients and need sessions and things like that. So,
Okay,
but
so when you're setting up your sessions, you're thinking in your head, okay, so I did this person, so I'm gonna have to see them within the next, week to 3 weeks max.
yeah,
So you're gonna have to come back at that time, and I'm sure you try to kind of cluster them all together, right? So that way you can time it to, so you're not paying for 15 flights. You're
yeah,
trying to get
exactly.
as many people done at the time, and then, okay, now let me go back to Vegas, bang out those as many as you
Yep.
can. Then is that kind of how you do it?
Yeah, that's exactly how it's done. That's exactly how it's done. I definitely stack a lot of people while I'm here. The days where I have like max 4 appointments All
In one
medium-sized
day?
projects. Yeah, but all medium-sized projects though. Mediums. Any sort of large projects. I'll couple like two large projects together in a day, or I'll do. But I've done upwards of 4 sessions in a day, man. And you know how it goes, man. I was so cross-eyed at the end of that day, and I was like never. So I try not to do those. I can if I need to, based on my travel schedule and how far along the sessions are and stuff like that. But as far as like, yeah, I can do quite a bit, but man, I'll see sideways for the next, 2 or 3 days. You know how that goes, man. So
Yeah, and I mean, I hate doing the whole heads, and they pay more like doing the neck, behind the ears. But if I do someone's whole head,
whew,
I'm very unlikely to take on a second person that day. I like to do two max. I've done three. I don't think I've ever done four. Four sounds very exhausting. I've done three, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore because mine always take at least 4 hours. I block out the time. Is this what you do? So I'll say 4 hours. Plan to be here 4 hours. If we're done in three, we're done in three. If we're done in two, we're done in two. But I like to just block that out.
yeah,
Let's say 9 to 1 or something, and then the second person would come in 2:30 to like 5:30, something like that.
yeah. Yeah, similar. I'll do a 3 hour block, but I'll give myself a cushion of a half hour between like if I start a client at 1, I'll plan on finishing them at 4, but I'll book the next client like at 4:30 or 5, just in case I got to run over just a little bit,
And you should, and you got to take
yeah.
a piss or eat.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I also suggest all SMP artists take a break every hour. You know what I mean? Like take a break. It's fine. It's okay. Let your eyes realign. You know what I mean? But if you got momentum, keep going. There's a fine line. Some people are momentum people. If you got that good momentum, you started and you're hitting all those proper impressions, keep that momentum going. But if your eyes are hurting, you're blinking a lot, and you find yourself kind of stumbling and fumbling, then take a break. It's fine. 10-minute break. Let your eyeballs realign to your brain, and get back in there. But if you got momentum, keep it going, baby. I'm about that too. Yeah.
I agree. Let me ask you a question because you're an SMP artist with hair, right?
Yeah.
You have hair. As
Yeah.
far as I can see, you don't actually have SMP. Maybe a beard SMP. I'm not sure. Do you?
No, man. I'm like you. I was blessed with a beard, bro. So.
Okay. So have you had any issues because you have a good beard, you have a full head of hair? When you get a fully bald person like me comes in, have you seen any hesitation like, you don't have it, you can't understand me, or what's your, how does that go for you?
So yeah, it's a really good question. As somebody with hair, first and foremost, my portfolio speaks for itself. And if anybody wants to see the SMP in person, I have some close friends that I initially worked on in my career that, can come in and swing by, that live locally, they come by and the client can check them out. I got a buddy of mine, he's a really good looking dude, in shape, has the SMP, looks phenomenal on him. He's half black, half white. So he's the shade. So he's got like that dark skin. You know how SMP really pops on the dark
perfect
skin.
candidate.
Yeah, perfect candidate. And he'll swing by. He literally works around the corner. And I've hooked him up in the beginning with some awesome free sessions. And he's like, let me pay you. I was like, no, dude, just be around for if you could swing by whenever a client's like, I want to see it in person. And so I'll swing him by and he'll just tell people about how it's affected his confidence, how he's doing, why he likes it, things like that. And then also when clients come by for a consultation, they want to see it in person, things like that. I try my hardest to be in the middle of a session of a similar project. So, and then also I'll prep that client that I'm working on ahead of the consultation client, like, hey, would you mind if somebody that's interested in SMP comes in and checks it out and sees me work and asks you some questions, how you feel about it? And literally 98% of the time, the clients are super cool, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. And so I'll be working on that client, consultation shows up, go out there, greet them, meet them. How you doing? I'm Shane, and like, hey, I'm working on a client right now with a similar situation as yours, a similar case. Would you like to come see it? And they always want to see it. And then they peek their head in and they're like, holy smokes, and the jaw hits the floor, you know how it goes. And so that's a really good selling point. Like approach to somebody with hair. You want to try your hardest to try and get SMP in front of those people and had a credible portfolio to be able to, portray your skills and your talents, and so, but that's one way I like to do it. I got my buddy on deck who lives down the street. And then I tell him, hey, you can come on in when I'm working on a client to check it out. And people feel way better, after they come and talk to somebody that's paid the price already, that's already had like a session or two and how they feel about it. So I think that's one of the best approach for SMP artists with hair is to make clients feel better is to bring them in like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's a solid strategy. And I like how you have the friend close by as well as, and you're right, your portfolio does speak for itself. You're a very talented artist. So they could just scroll through, look at your pictures. I'm not sure if you probably have some printed out for them too, but that's good that it's not holding you back. And okay, so let me ask you this. So obviously you have hair, you don't have SMP.
Yeah.
Most people, they get it done. Like myself, I got it done. I'm like, oh shit, this is awesome. Let me get, I want to start training in it. How and why did you start pursuing your SMP journey?
So it's a great question, Joey. So my mom has always been very savvy with the beauty industry and business. She's very savvy. She's a hairdresser. She owns a hair salon in Newport Beach, California. It's been there for about 11 years. And prior to that, she did nails for about 20 years. And, she's always been really, really savvy with the beauty business. And so what had happened is my mom's hair salon, most hair salons in the back room, they have somebody in the back room doing waxing or some sort of facials or something. There's always a back room in hair salons where they do additional beauty services. My mom's tenant at the time was a microblader. And she noticed how much money the microblader was making, but she also noticed that the microblader was making money off of the education. And it really blew her mind that the microblader was able to do that without any sort of like additional requisites or things like that. And so she saw a money-making opportunity. So she started looking into microblading for herself to kind of do something similar. Along that journey, she discovered scalp micropigmentation. And she was like, hey, Shane, this is, and she knew it. She goes, this is the next big thing. This is it right here. She goes, you really should go take a class. She goes, and then you're going to get good and then you're going to educate. And, lo and behold, here I am, and so it fell in my lap. I caught a big break. Really fortunate and thankful for it. Prior to that, I was a master barber in Orange County. The barber scene got to Orange County, Southern California, the West Coast, a little late than like the East Coast. There was barbers on the East Coast for decades. That wasn't the case on the West Coast. So probably around 12 years ago, there was a big barber boom, so there was a really big scene. I got deep into it. I went to a really good barbering school, had some great mentors and things like that, was doing really well as a barber. But the barbers at the time just weren't making money. Barbers nowadays make a lot of money. But
yeah, they do.
5-6 years ago, no way, man. No way. You're talking $20, $25 haircuts, $5 for the beard. That was, and I knew at the time, like I need to make more money. I need to do something bigger. And then the SMP fell in my lap and, the rest is history. So it was, and I got to go to training and then here I am now, super thankful, very fortunate. So
that's awesome. So your mom basically was the catalyst. She found it and she was like, son, you'd be great at this. And you kept doing research and that's kind of how you got into it.
Yep. That's exactly how it went. Yep.
And so who did you end up training with?
So initially my first training was with Zhang SMP. Zhang is a really good SMP artist here in Southern California and Los Angeles area. Have you ever heard of Zhang? Z-A-N-G? Zhang?
Of course.
Heard of that guy?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I got to go and get trained with him and things like that. And you yourself, Joey, as an SMP artist of 6 years, so you remember how it was 6 years ago. There wasn't any pigment strictly created for SMP. There wasn't any needles strictly created for SMP. Working with the mystery ink and big wasp needles. You know what I mean? The technology.
I remember Big Wasp.
Yeah, Big Wasp, baby. And then, but the technology and the education system for SMP back then is not even close to where it is now. And I'm sure you agree with me on that. The education systems, teaching people impressions, color theory, retention, understanding the skin, epidermis, things like that. There wasn't a very thorough like education created for SMP back then. And as it's evolved over the years, people that are getting into it now are learning much more than when me and you first got into it 6 years ago. And that's because of the evolution of the industry and technology, right? So
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. I mean, and also everybody was trying to keep it a secret back then. Nobody wanted to teach people. Like the guy that I ended up training with, Dan Yernberg, who died, and I'm sure you saw that.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Dan. He actually and Dan was cool and all that, and he did my first SMP. But I know of two very, very well-known artists in our industry who tried to train with Dan, and he refused to train them because he was afraid. I don't know if he thought me, hey, this guy who works at a bank, this IT guy wants to learn SMP. And plus I was like 2.5 hours away from him because he was down in DC. But these other guys were in completely different states. But one of them was a different state. The other one eventually became direct competition.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
I agree.
I agree with you that the education for scalp micropigmentation is 10 times better now. And we just know more information. There's not really any long-term studies. I don't think there's anyone with SMP that's 20 years old. The oldest might be 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. Yep, that's about right. Yeah.
And so it's like, I actually get people in here. I'm not sure what you do when this question comes up. They're like, well, how will it look in 20, 30 years? And I explain the touch-up process. And I'm like, to be honest, there are no long-term studies because it's only maybe 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I just say, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely true. That's still in the infancy of the industry. Still a lot of growing, but like, as far as like, I see where you're coming from, and I know it too. Secrets in the industry, in the education system, not sharing or opening up, these diamonds that can really make things more simple or things like that. A lot of these things that people don't want to share are things that they learned on their own through experience. You know what I mean? So they felt like they have these rights to these tips and tricks. Like, this is my tip that I went out on a ledge to learn. So I understand that, but I also feel like if we just were completely transparent with everybody and shared our secrets, tips and tricks and, tricks and things like that, we would help build the foundation of the credibility for the industry. You know what I mean? There wouldn't be hack jobs that went to class, 5 days ago, decides to do a full lineup with no, understanding of retention or mixing pigments, like those secrets that can really help that. So then they have a botched job. And now that botched job's walking around representing our industry. And every time that person runs into anybody that says, hey, I want SMP, it's like, oh, don't get that, man. I got botched. And what does that stem from? That stems from education and not putting everything you have into educating these students and sharing your secrets, your tips, your tricks, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, the credibility of one SMP application can reflect, into a certain amount of people that think about getting the SMP done. So it's all credibility within the industry, and I think full transparency is merited for education. There's still some people that hold back. I've been to some educations, and a master artist pulls out a bottle out of their pocket when no one's looking and puts it in the pigment, and I was like, hey, what's that? And it's like, oh, that's nothing. And it's like, no, I know what that was. That was a neutralizer before neutralizers were big.
Yeah.
And I've caught a couple dudes doing that, you know what I mean? And it's funny, it's funny. And they're like, oh, it's a secret. I go, I know what that is. It's color theory, bro.
It's orange ink.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where I just think full transparency is merited in all education. And I also think that, will you make money from SP? Yes, you can. But nothing worthwhile in this life comes easy. You know, Joey, you're a staple of that saying, you know, and putting in the work, growing, learning, working hard. You know, a lot of people think that people that come in for the education, like, oh, I'm gonna take this class and I'm gonna make $250,000 a year immediately. You got to practice to become a good artist. You got to get good. This is very serious work. You got to build your portfolio. You got to get good at what we do. You have to put in the work. SMP is not easy. It's not. You know, and people, we make it seem easy. You know what I mean? You know, but it's one of those things where people have to put in the work. And I find a lot of people that come into education, they don't realize how much work needs to be put in to become a great artist. And so it's one of those things where I think I like to put students when they walk in the door, I'm like, hey, this is tough. You're going to have to work really hard, but you can do it. You know, just because I wasn't given a realistic approach to SMP when I went to train originally. I didn't get a live model. I got a 4-day training, no live model. So I didn't have the proper perspective of this is tough. I got on a head for the first time. Oh man, it was like jumping in water, not knowing how to swim. You know, like it was definitely panic.
Oh, it's scary as hell. The first person is so scary.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself, your hand's still like, you know, still shaking a little bit.
Oh yeah, the shakes. Yeah, those are great. Those are great. The shakes are great.
Well, that's good. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Let me ask you this while we're on the topic. Do you think, because you've been in the industry long enough, let me back up. Did you go to the scalp show, the one that Matt Aiello had in 2021?
No,
Was it
I
21
did.
or 2022? Okay.
I did not. I
So
was not in Vegas at the time, but I did do the SMP Expo in Tulum with Jeff and all those guys.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that was super
I was
fun.
there too.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there.
Was the beard as big? Was the beard as big?
Yeah, it was. But I did the side classes, and I didn't really mingle too much with too many people. I was just like focused on, D Black was there, so I was like, I gotta learn this ASMP thing.
Oh, that was in
so I was really
Arizona.
focused
That was the one
on
in
that.
Arizona, right? That was the one in Arizona,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
you went to the one in Mexico.
Yeah, Tulum. Yeah, that was the one I was at. Yeah, because I would have spotted you from a mile away with that beard, man, for sure. Because it was because we were at a resort, so everybody was kind of like on top of each other for a few days. So that's why I was like, what? So yeah, you went to one in Arizona. I heard that one was really a lot of fun too. I heard that one was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, they were great. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, so at the Scalp Show in 2022,
21.
In the Scalp Show I think it was 2022. Yeah. Matt had brought up, at the Scalp Show, they brought up basically putting in, I don't want to call it a certification process like a barber, but putting in restrictions for new artists, basically, or you have to meet a certain level of criteria to get a, I don't know, nationwide SMP certificate or something like that, because there's so many bot shops. Because in all honesty, you could take the class, right? Don't have a clue what's going on.
Nope.
And you could just go jack somebody's head up. Like, that's
so bad.
Reality right now.
Yeah.
Should there be a set of criteria? Do you think there should be a set of criteria? Judges, like, how would they even do that?
This is a great question. Yeah, this is awesome. So, didn't mean to cut you off, brother. So one of those, it's funny because different states, I don't know how your state is, but here in California, there's no prerequisites to become a body artist, tattoo artist. So you can literally take your blood pathogen online for $40, have a friend that owns a facility that's, good to go with the health department, and you literally just walk in, apply. Here's my application. I took my online bloodborne pathogen test. I have a place to work, and they'll literally stamp you. Okay, you're good to go. They might show up and they'll show up and make sure you know how to sterilize everything. No needles on the floor. Just you're not dumb. But as far as practically anybody can get into body art, permanent makeup, tattooing in Southern California immediately. Like, you could, by the end of the month, you could be full blown, have a place to work, doing tattoos and stuff like that with no real like experience or education. That's California. You go to Nevada, in Vegas, if you want to become any sort of body artist, you have to do an apprenticeship for 6 months under somebody that is deemed qualified by the health department to give you an internship or a mentorship. I've heard of other states, I believe it's Oregon, I could be wrong, where you got to go to straight up tattoo school for a year before they give you that license. Like tattoo school, you show up, you're learning everything. It was really cool. I actually met a gentleman. He was a educator at a tattoo school in Oregon. I believe it's Oregon, and his name was Johnny. He's also an SMP artist. But it was crazy because me and him, we did an education together. I've done education with all kinds of people. We'll get into that later. And I was picking that dude's brain, and that guy's understanding of the epidermis, the chemical reactions that are happening in our skin and things like it was very in depth, to a point where he even educated everybody in the room that were experienced SMP artists. So it kind of goes to show that there's a lot that goes into tattooing the body that's happening that a lot of people aren't educated in. And so with back to reference of should SMP be like this year-long certification, something similar to beauty school, part-time, full-time, certain levels and things like that. For me, I think it is merited. I think that we definitely need to try and get a grip on proper education. The industry has a problem right now with serial educators. I call them serial educators, like serial killers. Serial educators flying all over the world, doing classes of like 40 people, spending 3 days with them, doing dots for only 2 days. Everybody gets 15 minutes on a live model, and then good luck. That's not going to get it done. You know what I mean? It's not going to get it done. So I definitely think that there's more that goes into it. I actually just ran a little bit of an experiment with my education system. So I have a 3-day education system is standard in the industry, but I also offer a 6-day education system. The 6-day education system is you get 6 days of education. So they'll get the initial 3 days like everybody else was going to, but then they have 3 additional days. So I'll give them the initial 3-day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we bang it out just like a normal class, do a live model on the final day. Well, then I have those students return once for the next 3 months to work on either that same project model that they worked on initially or another live model of some sorts to give them a realistic understanding of how things heal, how to approach a healed first session SMP and stuff. And I had these 2 students, great gals, and they did okay. They did okay for the first 3 days. They got on that live model. They did just okay. By the end of the 6-day training, after they have gotten 4 total repetitions on a live model, those girls were night and day. It was amazing. They truly came out better after the 6-day education system because they got more repetitions and they got to see healed SMP and they got to understand what to do in certain areas when certain things come back. So extra education definitely helps these students go further. But, there's other things that go into becoming an SMP artist is like you can give amazing education, but you also, and you're the king of this, is everything that goes into your business presence online, advertising, portraying yourself. There's so much more that goes into that. There should be a whole nother day just dedicated just to that, because that's a huge part of our industry too, is being able to get clients and sell yourself, and some people have no idea what to do with that. You could be such a talented SMP artist, be great, hit the floor running, but like if you don't know how to be a small business owner, you don't know how to portray yourself, you don't know how to, edit videos, create an online presence, you'll sink. Just how it goes.
I agree with everything you said. And it's crazy because if they were to put in regulations, like you were saying, different states have different requirements. So if we put the regulations into it, would have to be, I guess, at a federal level. And then even if we do that, you're still going to have people who are not going to follow the rules, which, okay, whatever. But then on top of that, there's so many different variables and so many different things that could go wrong. It would be probably like a 5 to 10 year process before we could even implement it, where it's actually, up and running and smooth. Like there would be several certified schools. This person knows what they're doing. You go here, you train with them, but then people have to pay for that. And then you have to get the models. So there's so many factors that are outside of our control. You and I just training someone, like, they also, and then they're going to need to continue to work a job. And I tell people, I like how you brought this up. You're not just going to start making $250,000 a year, because I get people like that. They think, oh, I'm going to be an SMP artist and I'm going to make a shit ton of money. It's not like that. It's not like that, and especially if you're new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny. I tell them, don't quit your day job just yet. Don't quit your day job just yet. So.
How long did it take you when you stopped doing barbering full time before you became just a full time SMP? I'm assuming you're a full time SMP artist.
Yeah, I'm full time SMP. I don't cut hair. Sometimes I miss it, but then I'm like, no, you don't. But it's I want to say right around 2020 is when I really was like, I'm putting down the clippers and I'm just doing this SMP thing. That was right around halfway through my career as an SMP artist is when I went full time. And it was one of those things where it was a joy. It was a real joy to leave behind barbering, but it was also heartbreak because I had clients I had had for 8-9 years, guys I saw every week, every 2 weeks and things like that. And I just knew I was meant for something bigger. I always knew I was meant for something bigger in my life. Not saying barbering's not big or anything like that. Definitely make a lot of money barbering and stuff. But I knew that I had talents and things like that, as far as like being able to educate, talk, speak with people, convey things to people and stuff like that. I always had a knack for that. And so I knew that I wanted to get into education. And then I started dabbling into education a little bit right then, 2020. And then the rest was history, and then I was doing SMP for a little while in my mom's salon. And in 2020 is when I got my first facility. And, I've been really fortunate. I went from a little small room in the back to a 5-room facility here in Huntington Beach. So I'm super fortunate and lucky. But yeah, man, the transition was smooth, but it was one of those things where SMP, you got to really dig out those clients. You got to keep posting, you got to keep up, you got to, people that have inquired, you got to go back, check on them, see how they're feeling and things like that. There's definitely more hustle required in attaining clients as an SMP artist than it was as a barber.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy because, I'd sit there and hustle and hustle and hustle. I'd catch, maybe 2 clients a month and stuff like that. And for me and my bills at the time, and where I was fine with that. You know what I mean? And then it's the credibility. It's all about the credibility in the industry. Really building that and building the portfolio and stuff like that. The credibility is massive. So built up my credibility. And then I was fortunate enough to have done some really fun things in the industry that other people haven't gotten a chance to do. Right after I finished with barbering, I got recruited. I've been on a couple teams for pigments, right? So I got recruited back in 2021 to be on the team Pigmenta from Italy. And so
love Tony.
Yeah, Tony's a great guy. He's super talented artist, a lot of fun, big heart. And his whole family's like that. The guy's really
his whole family's a beast.
Yeah, and they're great people, all of them. I met all of them. They're really sweet, kind people. The Italians are great people. Naples, Italy. If you get a chance, visit it. If you get a chance, go take a class with them. You'll learn a lot. So I was fortunate enough to get put on his team and got to do some pretty fun things. And it was a great time, and I really enjoyed it. But it was for me. I wanted to do something a little bit more closer to the States. You know what I mean? It was a little bit too international for me because flying to Naples every, year was a little stretch for me. But so then I ended up on the
Yeah, and then
Ghost
when you
team.
got a kid,
Yeah. Well, now I got a kid. But the Ghost team, I ended up on the Ghost team for a little bit, and that was a lot of fun. Jeff and Ivan and those guys taking care of me and stuff like that. It was really good. Another shout out to a stud SMP artist over there at Ghost is Clayton Rush. How about that guy? That guy's a beast,
I love
man. So,
Clayton. I
oh
love
man, you ever
Clayton.
talk to Clayton? You ever talk to that guy?
Yeah, I know Clayton. I know
Oh man,
Clayton.
that guy. I'm a talker, so I love talking to Clayton because Clayton will talk to you all day long. You know what I mean? He's the best, dude. Really good artist too, man. So I've been around some really talented guys, man. I've been really fortunate, really, really, really fortunate. And learned a lot of things from different people, picking their brains and stuff like that. And so I've been on Pigmenta, Team Ghost, and Ghost is cool and everything like that. I appreciate, but I've been currently using Chris Herrera's pigment and needles.
Okay, the Art of SMP needles and
Yeah,
the Euros. Okay.
euros and blends, and I like it. For me personally, it honestly it's a little bit of a convenience as far as he's got high quality stuff, but it also if I order it, it doesn't take 2 weeks to get here. It takes 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And so when you're ordering Ghost, it's got to go through customs from Canada, and so sometimes I had a student, it sometimes takes a while, and sometimes I need pigment right away, so, and then also, but I like blends. I like the quality of blends. I like the needles more so than anything. The needles are exceptional. I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to try those Euros, bro.
Of
Man.
course. I
Yeah,
have
of course.
boxes. I
Yeah.
have plenty of them.
Yeah. So it's like the Hanzo sword, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a creme de la creme, as far as sharpness and quality for me. Chris did not hold back on that. So, but I've been a part of a lot of things. I've been around a lot of different people, really talented people in the industry and stuff like that. And I'm really fortunate. And the industry's great. The people in it, they're nice, good people. They really are. And I encourage everybody to get into the industry. You're like, well, how do I do that? Well, take your initial education, then after that, start working. Then take some master classes from these different individuals, build up that connection group, people you can reach out to that'll support you, that'll give you advice and things like that. Don't be afraid to go neck deep into the industry to learn more and to grow as an SMP artist. Because at the end of the day, we still haven't hit the mainstream boom of SMP. Like
Oh,
SMP
I
people
wish we
know.
would. I want
Yeah,
to so bad.
yeah,
I
it's
want
gonna
to so
happen.
bad.
It's gonna happen. Somebody like The Rock's gonna show up with the hairline. Everybody's gonna be like,
Yeah.
and so, but as an industry, we need to be a cohesive unit as far as like camaraderie, um, education, making people legitimate artists and things like that, and be a team. Because when that mainstream boom hits, we can't be keeping secrets from each other, can't be nitpicking each other, can't be at each other's throats over minor stuff, because then the whole world's going to be looking at us like these guys just bicker and fight with each other. You know what I mean? It's so we need to really be a well educated, um, well oiled machine for when that boom hits. We all need to be on that same page. We all need to be transparent as far as education goes, and doing good work, because once that mainstream hits, man, it's lights out. It's lights out. It's definitely grown, but we still haven't hit the mainstream boom yet. It's
I
any year now. So
I completely I agree with you. And unfortunately there are some there are people in the industry who have beef. I'm glad I'm not a part of any beefs, thank God. But I don't put myself in, I also try not to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be in one.
yeah,
Um, and I'm happy for that. But in regards to what you were saying about people talking about other people's work, guess what? Every single SMP artist has made a mistake, has made multiple mistakes, especially when you're starting out. So nobody's perfect, and they have to recognize. Now, if you're a couple years in and you keep fucking someone's head up, yeah, you probably should not do that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You probably
yeah,
shouldn't do that. But in the beginning, obviously, people are going to make mistakes. And I agree. If we came together, I don't know if there's an SMP union or something that needs to happen. I think it could be beneficial. I do think there can be benefits to that. I agree with you. Good point.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
So you've been. I saw some of the videos. I saw you with Kat in one of the videos with leaders and all them.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Oh man. Everybody that's a part of that leaders team, they're all great people. They're all good people that have a passion for education. Extremely talented artist. Kat, man. Do you know Kat? Yeah.
Yeah. I've been talking to Kat for years. I never met him in person, but I've been talking to him for years.
He's probably
very kind person.
The most kind human being in the world. You know what I mean? Like that guy is, he's just one big smile and hug. And shout out to Kat, man. Love you, bro. Appreciate all the times we've hung out and stuff like that. But, I got to be a part of a leaders training in LA, and it was a lot of fun. They brought me in to train for the color theory basics. That's something I have a bit of a specialty in the industry. And so being there, it was a lot of fun. Nice, big class, a lot of students and stuff. And, it was a lot of fun, man, and it's fun because it was great because I went into that class and, you go to educate, but then when you get to an environment like that where there's all these other educators that are there and then they start speaking and like you start just picking up these little diamonds that fall out, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I never thought of that way, and vice versa. So being a part of some of these trainings and stuff like that, it's really an exceptional blessing, you know what I mean? Because, I got a chance to pick up some things, and also help out, with education and stuff like that. So, I did that. I've done that a couple times with those guys, those guys are so international, man. Those guys are, tomorrow they'll be in Dubai and the next week they'll be in Japan and the next week they'll be in Korea. They are really international educators and stuff.
They're killing it. They're killing
it. Yeah, and they're good educators. They're legitimate. Between Jeff, Masood, Kat, Clayton, and all these other super talented artists they have on the team. I don't really know all the other guys, but they're killing it. And they know absolutely what they're doing and stuff like that. So I definitely encourage anybody to go catch one of those master classes. I believe there's a master class coming up in February. Tony, Jeff, and some other super talented artists are going to be there and stuff like that. I really encourage new artists, go jump in that class. Go learn from those guys and how they brain work, because I learned stuff from Tony and then I learned stuff from Jeff, and they're two different brains. These educators, these guys, people's brains work differently. And so how they see things, one guy might see things a certain way, you don't get that, but another master artist will see it another way and you'll get the way he sees it. So you definitely want to tap into these master artist brains to see what's going through you. Like, I would love to tap into Joey's brain over there, man. I see his work, I see what he's doing and stuff. I'm like, okay, this guy's a Giroux guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy's, these guys are studs, absolute studs over there. You know what I mean? And I see the work you do, the detail you do. I'm like, wow, this guy's very in-depth. You were talking about how you sit down, you allot 4 hours, usually takes about 4 hours, things like that. I see the detail that goes into those 4 hours of work, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, look at this guy's discipline and detail, and you're a discipline guy. I can see your discipline in your SMP, man. You know what I mean? And I just think that if you're really passionate about this, you need to really tap into all these different artists and how they see things, because like I said, everybody's vision's different. Some guys have different patterns, some guys have different approaches, some guys have different, pigment approaches and things like that. You really want to have an arsenal of different things to attack, different game plans in your brain that you've learned. You execute those and you understand them. That's what's going to make you the great artist. When people sit down in front of me, I talk to them, and I don't know if you do this, Joey, but I give them the stare at the head for a little while. Or I'll touch their head and I'll stare and stare and stare and stay in like awkward 30 seconds of no talking. And they're just like making eye contact with you. And in my head, I'm going through my brain and the book in my brain of, okay, how am I going to approach this? Okay, what have I done? It's just literally everything I know, and then just okay, this is how I'm going to approach it. I'm going to use this level, this size needle. I'm going to do this type of density, this, that, and the other and stuff. So, and that's because of all my experience I have. I have that in my brain. So people need to get those experiences from these other artists so they can have this arsenal to reach into, and an assassin has more than just one weapon. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
More than just one approach. So the same thing goes for SMP. You want to have more than just one weapon because different things walk through the door. You're like, whoa, that didn't work. You know what I mean? You got to think outside the box.
There's definitely some trial and error involved in SMP, especially in the beginning. And even when you're trying to get better, because to me, I hate doing the straight line edge. I hate it. I'll do it. I try to talk people out of it. But if that's what they want, I'll do it. Pain in the ass, in my personal opinion.
It is.
But
I agree.
It's like, I just don't think it looks as natural. I love the natural hairline. One, because you can be more creative as an artist. Two, I think it just personally, it looks better. But there's a lot of, like in the beginning, I was scared to have a quarter inch of fading, right below the density. I was so afraid of that. I was like, I'm just going to make this uneven. And that's how I did it. And then as I got better and better, I was like, oh, now I can do that. And that does look better because it takes a few years because you want to see your work fully healed too.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Oh, okay. Because I keep notes on everyone. I don't know if you keep notes, but I keep notes on everyone. Like I keep a folder. And then I look back at the pictures and I'm like, and then when they come in, I'm like, okay, that's held up really well. That looks good. So then I make a mental note of that. I could try that on this person with a similar skin tone.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do the same thing, keep notes on everybody. And I also try my hardest, like you said, okay, I did the note will say, okay, on this person, we used a size 6 with this level. And then the first session I did this amount of density, this and that, and this is how it turned out. I noticed myself doing extended work on the second session. Maybe I could add a little bit of work into the first session, things like that. And, and after a certain amount of reps, that becomes embedded in your brain for that skin type and that tone type. You know exactly what your go-to. Oh, I've used.
And it takes a while.
It takes a while. And it's our industry is a lot of experience, man, and it's not quick experience. Like a haircut, you can do 10 haircuts in a day, mess up 5 of them. You learn from those 5, and it's going to grow out. This becoming an SMP artist and becoming a master artist, it takes a lot of rep, a lot of like patience. Things have to heal. You have multiple sessions, and if you try something else, you got to wait for it to heal. You have multiple sessions. It's like, okay, well, I kind of want to try a different approach on the next one. I'm going to combine those first 2 approaches. And so it takes experience, and our experience isn't, like I said, really quick, you know what I mean? Or fast. They're elongated experiences. So sometimes it takes people longer, when people first start out, how long does it take for a student to get 5 heads under their belt? Does that take 2 months? Does that take 3 months? You know what I mean? Does that take 4 months? And so it's definitely.
And because the industry is growing, and what you said, getting in, like when we got in, it's a little easier to find clients. At least I think so. Because now there's so many artists. Good and not so good. So I don't like to call them bad. I say new learning, right? So there's there's very experienced artists who are putting out high quality work, and then there's a lot of new artists. And because of that, the customer has way more options to pick from. And when you have way more options, they're going to shop around. And so getting into the game right now, I'm not going to lie, it's hard. Like if I was have to come in right now, I would be a little overwhelmed. It would take me longer to get where my skill level and my knowledge and expertise that I'm at now, coming in now, 2024, over the past 6 years, I think it would take me longer to get all of that information, just because I won't be able to get the reps, because more than likely, I won't be able to get the amount of clients that I've gotten.
Yeah, it's, you're absolutely right about that, Joey. I don't know about you, but I feel like the industry's almost doubled over in the last 2 years.
Possibly tripled.
Yeah, possibly triple. So I'd say almost the last 2 years, it's almost doubling every year. Now the momentum's
Yeah.
going because there's a lot of serial educators out there, like I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's business. But it's one of those things where like I do feel you're absolutely correct. Coming in, somebody like yourself, with no, excuse me, no, coming from the corporate world and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Going into a service hands-on industry, definitely tougher for somebody making that type of transition versus a permanent makeup artist, a barber, somebody that's already in the beauty industry. The permanent makeup artists, they walk in and they've already got, anywhere from 2 to 5 clients lined up. The barber, when the barber has potential clients, I always tell barbers this, I go, look, dude, you work in a barber shop. Yeah. How many barbers are in there? Oh, there's 10 other barbers than me. And he's like, oh, no, this and that. Like, look, check it out. You're in a good position as a barber to be an SMP artist because one, not only are your clients now your potential SMP clients, but now you've become the SMP artist in the barber shop. And every single barber's clients are now your potential client for SMP. So there's definitely people that are at a advantage than others, but you're absolutely right. The industry is it's not oversaturated. It's not nowhere near like the brow industry or something. Brow industry is massive,
Yeah.
so many brow artists. It's insane. But for me, I feel like the industry, like here's a good example. My client I had yesterday, he found me, he booked right away, boom, sent the deposit. He was all about it. And, sometimes some clients, you got to talk to them a little bit. They come talk to you. And so this guy was all about it really quick. And I was just like, so how'd you hear about SP? He goes, oh, I heard about it about a week ago. I was like, what? That's not normal. Clients usually research it for a couple years, a couple months and stuff like that. And he goes, well, my wife was going to the girl that does her lashes and her brows, it got brought up and she offered the service. And he said he was going to go see her for back of his crown. He has a light crown. He was going to go see her for 3 sessions for $600. And to him, it was a little bit of a red flag because of how cheap it was. He didn't understand it. And so long story short, that person actually canceled it on him. Personally, I think that person got a little intimidated by the project and canceled on him last minute. So he knew he didn't
Probably
want to go
smart.
there. Yeah, probably smart too. And so then he started doing his research and he found me, and then he knew that the difference as far as like, he was like, oh, you're an experienced artist. I see that you have 6 years experience. You have a lot of content. And he's like, I like you, bro. I'm going to go with you. And like there's options. People understand they have options. Had one client that was in here and he was getting all kinds of different low ball prices for his SMP. And that was at least a $2,800 SMP. It was a lot of work. And he said he didn't want to go with those people, the $1,200, the $1,300 people, the $800 people, because he just felt like this was a higher quality job that he needed. And so he shopped around and he found me. You know what I mean? He shopped like 5 or 6 different SP artists here in Orange County. And it's just they have options nowadays, you know what I mean? And so it's definitely tough. Back to your original comment, it's a little tough to get into it right now.
Let me ask you something else. What I've noticed, I'm not gonna back to like needles and all that, and actually doing scalp micropigmentation. So in regards to doing scalp micropigmentation and the learning process, what I've seen is a lot of, I'm not calling anybody out or anything like that, but what I see is, to me, it seems like people almost don't change their needle size when they're blending. So that I'll notice that I always look at like the blending, because that's one of the most difficult parts, aside from the hairline. The hairline, I'd say, is obviously the hardest part, but blending into the person's real hair is very difficult process. And I just, why do you think that is? Why do you think people just, I'm going to use a 0.25 when I'm blending on this blonde dude or something like that? You know what I mean?
God. Might as well do it with the shotgun. I think it goes back to like education. I think it goes back to, because nobody's pointed that out to them. You know what I mean? Like, hey, not all blending's the same. Densities changes, different tones, things like that. You could have somebody with no hair on the sides of their head. The blends can be different versus somebody that has a full-blown carpet thickness on the side of their head, you know. And I think stems back to education and stuff like that. But also blending. I feel like blending, of course, like you said, hairline's number one, duh. But I feel like blending is a secret number two that really isn't like really preached well in education, like because the blends make everything. And that was one of the things I had to work on when I was working with the guys in Italy. Is they're like, Shane, you gotta blend more. You gotta blend more. You gotta bring that blend down. You gotta blend it all the way. And the blend, what I learned, because I was somebody that struggled with the blend. What happens is the blending is where like you've done all this work and you got to put more. It's like running around running around the track. You know, you ran it 3 times and you got to run around the track one more time. And you know, if you hit that one more time, you're going to burn those calories. You're going to feel good about your day. That blend is one more lap around the track, and people are exhausted. People are tired. People want to go home. They want to go count their money and stuff like that. That blend, dude, exhausted. That's why I always tell people, don't overextend yourself because you got to blend. Blending is essential. You have to blend. If you know, and people, you can't cut that corner. You can't cut any corners in SMP, and the blend is one of those that you can't cut the corner on. So, yeah,
You hit the nail on the head with that. That was a great analogy about going around the track, being exhausted, because you will have to go around one more time. But for those, and I'm not going to clip this. If people are listening, if you've made it this far, I'm going to give you a secret. If you just use a smaller needle, let's say you're doing a 0.20 on someone my skin tone. Okay, someone my skin tone, you're using a 0.20. All right, and I have hair on the sides, which is nice. It's ideal, right? Switch down to the 0.15 micrometer, and just go down and go in between all those little gaps. Just go in between. When you see a little white spot, hit it. When you see a little pelt, boom, boom, boom. Just hit it with it. Just hit it one time. And I actually will do that almost like while I'm working from the head, the back of the head. I'll just do it while I'm working almost. Yeah. You know, instead of just filling in the center, I actually do the outside and then I'll circle back. But doing that blend is it makes a really big difference. It really does. Yeah.
What do I tell people? I go, you know, if you don't think it's blended well enough, go all the way to the ear. I don't care. You know, like, you know,
it's more work for the artist, but guess what? It's a better picture, right? Better end result.
Way better. Looks way better. So yeah, dude, the blend for sure. Gotta get that final lap, brother. The final lap. So
yep. Hey,
yes,
it's been great talking to you, Shane. You have a ton of experience, and I like hearing your stories. How can people find you? What are your social medias and all that stuff, and your website?
Yeah, so it's been great talking with you too, Joey, man. Like I said, share with you, man. You're an absolute stud, and you're what the industry needs. Look up to you, bro. Keep doing your thing. People want to get a hold of me, you know, Scalp Micronation on Instagram. I'm also Scalp Micronation on TikTok. You know, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm a really giving guy. I love to help out others and stuff like that because I got a lot of help in the industry myself. So I like to pay it forward. Anybody asks me anything, I'm more than happy, you know, to give people tips and tricks and things like that, you know, for, you know, to become a better SMP artist, whether it's, you know, advertising, things like that. But the god of advertising it's between Joey and Taylor Perry, just to let you know. So, you know, those guys.
I need Taylor Perry's budget.
Oh, I
need Taylor Perry's budget, man. He's killing it.
Advertising, dude. You know, but I also encourage people because, like, Taylor Perry is another guy, super cool guy. You know, you'd be surprised how cool these SMP artists are if you reach out.
Yeah, he's not an asshole. He's not. He's actually a very down to earth person.
He's scary. Like, you know, he's a good looking, scary guy. You know, you want to show up to him, you know, with him, you know, to a fight for sure. And Joey, but you know, he's actually a super sweet, kind guy. And they all are, you know, a lot of these dudes don't smile in their photos, but inside they're smiling because they're SMP artists, you know? And so,
hey, I love that.
Yeah, and it's true. All those guys, hit up Chris, hit up Tony, hit up Jeff, hit up all those guys, you know, of course, hit up Kat, you know, they're all good guys. Majority of this industry are really good guys. There's a really small percentage that are just, jerk offs, but
Yeah.
they're good. Definitely reach out to others. Reach out to me. Don't be afraid to ask questions and stuff like that to, learn more about SMP.
Hey,
and stuff
reach
like
out to
that.
Shane. Anybody listening to this, reach out to Shane. You've got questions, especially if you're in the Orange County area or Vegas. He will hook you up. He will help
Yes,
you.
sir.
If you're an existing artist, he can drop some more knowledge on you. Do a little masterclass with him for a couple of days or something.
Yeah.
Shane, it's been great.